Miss Keisha Grant is an Emmy Award winner who has covered a wide range of breaking news stories from coast to coast, including some of Connecticut's most memorable headlines of the last decade. She has been honored by the NAACP for her commitment to community involvement. She has also been honored with awards from several other organizations, including the Ohio Valley chapter of National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, the Society of Professional Journalists, and Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Miss Grant's parents are her role models. She credits her mother's strength and her father's West Indian culture to her strong values and work ethic. Miss Grant lives in the Farmington Valley with her family. She loves hiking, traveling, enjoying everything nature has to offer, and mentoring the youth. It is with great pleasure to be able to speak with Miss Grant and learn more about her. This is not just history, this is Black history.
Okay, welcome, Miss Keisha Grant.
Thank you. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you and to your peers.
Thank you. Thank you. I know you could have been doing a lot of things, but you took the time to hang out with me and talk.
It is my pleasure. The fact that you reached out to me, there's no way that I couldn't oblige. So I thank you. It starts with initiative, right? You took the
Yeah.
initiative, seeking me out. The very least thing that I could do is help you out.
Thank you so much. All right, to start off, when did you know that you wanted to become a news anchor?
I knew that I wanted to become a news anchor. Well, I'll say journalist in broad term because that's what I figured. I was 14 years old. I remember it distinctly. I grew up in Los Angeles, California, and my family every single day as we were preparing for dinner, we would get together and watch the evening news. We'd watch local news, and then it would roll into the evening news. My father is originally from Barbados, the island of Barbados. He's West Indian, and my mother is from San Diego. And Daddy, I call him Daddy at my age, right? But I do. He is the original news junkie. He loves news, and if he didn't have that heavy, heavy accent, he would have been a journalist. He let it get in his way. But he asked me one day at the age of 14, and we'd make it a habit to all sit around the dinner table discussing what we watched on the evening news and on local news that evening. And evening news was on one evening, and he said, "Have you thought about what you want to be when you grow up?" Again, 14 years old. And I had it in my mind that I either wanted to be a teacher or a veterinarian. Daddy asking me, "Have you thought about what you want to be when you grow up?" And me looking at him saying, "Either a teacher or a veterinarian," his reply was, "Have you thought about this?" And he pointed to the television, the news was on. And I didn't say much after, but I looked and I watched. And we were a news family watching the news every evening. And I just remember thinking to myself in that moment when Daddy said, "Have you thought about this?" I thought to myself, listen, I have a million questions about everything. I've got the gift of gab. I don't meet strangers, even as a teenager. And maybe this is something that I could do. That's all my father ever said. That's all he had to say. It made me take a second look at the profession and the job. And it was right there in that moment that I thought, my daddy believes that I can do this. I can do this. And it was right there that I switched from a vet or a teacher to wanting to be a journalist. And there happened to be two anchors there on the evening news desk. And so anchoring was my focus, but it was a broader journalism, get into the field. I love to ask questions, so I knew that it would pertain to me.
Definitely. You know, sometimes something is right in front of your face, but you're not really seeing it until you get the perspective and on like another person, like a person's telling you their story or what they think on it, and then giving that spin. So yeah,
That is so true. And can I just tell you quickly, being a parent now myself, I get that. Like I know in my heart of hearts, I will never tell my children, this is what you have to do. This is what I want you to do. But I certainly will if I see something in them that they may be able to, that they may be good at. I may ask them that same question that my father asked me that one day. Have you thought about this? And I hope that they are able to see what I saw.
yeah. Definitely. So, I know that like this career choice is a very competitive one. So, as a person of color, have you experienced any challenges? And if so, how have you dealt with them?
I've been here at NBC Connecticut for in January I marked 18 years. Before being here, I was in Columbus, Ohio for 4 years. Before that, I did 2 years in my first broadcast market in Palm Springs, California, tiny little market. And before that, I did a year in cable. So you can add it all up. It's a long time, right? I have definitely faced challenges from day one, but as a person of color, it's no different than what we face in life every day.
Yeah.
Um, I remember being in my first small market in Palm Springs and being out in the field and walking up to someone, "Hi, I'm Keisha Grant," giving the call station letters of my station at the time. The person looking at me with my hand extended, looking down at my extended hand and refusing to shake my hand. I remember being in Columbus, Ohio, and doing a story and walking into a convenience store to ask someone for direction on, "Hey, did this story happen here?" And a fellow looking at me with his Confederate flag tied on his head and saying, "That story happened there, but if I were you, I wouldn't go over there." And I decided to push him just to see, okay, where is he coming from? Is he coming from where I think he's coming from? And he looked at me and I said, "Well, why is that, sir?" And he looked at me and he looked to the right and he looked to the left and he said, "Let me put it to you this way. This is the backwoods." I said, "Okay." So I have faced challenges in terms of race and racism every single step of the way. But I liken it to the struggle that people of color go through in life, right? I have never allowed it to make me have a chip on my shoulder. I just don't believe in it. I feel like I am doing a job that, yeah, I chose to do at the age of 14, but you know what? God chose me to do this job too. So I'm not going to let anything or anyone stop me from doing this job. I'm also not going to allow anything or anyone call me out of my character that could take away this job. So in the back of my mind, anytime there is a challenge, and race really has been the biggest challenge. I just in the back of my mind keep thinking, push through, push through. Don't be bullied. Don't take anything from anybody. But know your worth and know who you are and stand up for yourself and see it for what it is and keep pushing. If I have to work 10 times harder than the person next to me, you know what? That's okay because that's life.
Definitely. That's definitely a great message to like I'm really blessed that I got to like hear that story because it's something I probably won't read about, but I got to hear.
I try to share stories like that. And before COVID stopped us from going into schools, one of my favorite things to do is to talk to children, talk to kids, talk to teens, talk to young adults, because that's when you're most formidable and that's when you need to hear those lessons. Yeah, you need your lessons in your textbooks and in your history books, but you also need lessons today and you need life lessons and real lessons. And you need to hear those stories of what people are going through. And you need to hear that it's okay to face some adversity, no matter what avenue it comes from. It won't be race that is the adversity for everyone. For me, that has been. But you need to know and you need to be able to apply that to whatever challenge you're facing, whatever obstacle you're facing. The message is the same. Don't let it stop you. Rise above it and don't let anyone put you in a position that can prevent you from doing what you're here to do. The message applies to any and everyone, regardless of skin color, regardless of sex, regardless of who you are. That message applies across the board.
Definitely. Uh, just to bring it to my next question, how does what does so I know that you mentor the youth as you're like bringing up, and I also read that in your bio. So I wanted to know when did you start that? And I know you told us a little bit about it, but I wanted to go into a little bit more details. What was your inspiration behind that?
Behind mentoring youth,
Yes.
so with this job comes a level of responsibility, right? We are given a platform. People trust us, and they should. Um, this field has become muddied with your bloggers who people look at and think, oh, they're journalists. Not always the case. You can't put them in the same vein as news and mainstream media. So there is a great responsibility with this job, and there always has been. Um, Part of our job in being in the public light is to get out there in the community, to do good work in the community, to share those stories, and to help out in public service projects, and to help out with nonprofits, and to MC events and sit on boards of groups, just to help in our community in any way that we can, because we are so visible. So it comes with the job, but I feel like you don't get into this line of work without coming from a vein of helping people. Um, my inspiration is that I want to, in this state of Connecticut, take a story that has happened in one tiny corner of the state and let everybody across the state know about it. And that is the drive, that's the motivation, and it comes from the same vein. When you think about mentoring children, I am giving it back. um, I have been so fortunate to have had great mentors in my life, and I know the importance of it. So when it comes to answering the call, when you emailed me, when you messaged me, when it comes to doing stuff like what we're doing right now, I will never turn that down. I will do whatever I have to do to make time and room for it, whether we're in the age of COVID and we got to do a Zoom interview, or we can do it in person. I will always try to make time, because when I'm done doing this job, guess who's doing it? You.
You. Yeah. Thank you. I just want to say again, I'll probably be saying this throughout the whole interview. Thank you again for doing this. It really means a lot to me.
So
And
welcome.
and your message really goes along with what I want to do is be a lawyer and be the
Okay.
voice for the voiceless. So thank you. Definitely encouraged me a lot more to try that
Can I,
out.
can I tell you a little secret? So I do not, and it's just part of the fabric of who I am, but I refuse to have any regrets in life, and I do not want to leave any stone unturned. And I have probably for the past decade or so wanted to go to law school. And my rationale with that has been, when I'm done in front of the camera, maybe that next career for me is to be a lawyer. Maybe, though, I could marry the two and become a legal analyst. I know both jobs, right? So I had children that slowed me down a little bit in terms of law school, but it's still this fire that's burning. And so I'm actually back to pondering that, putting that on the table, thinking of how I can squeeze law school into my career now that I have. So go ahead with your interview. I just wanted to let you know that, since that's what you want to do.
Yeah. Maybe we'll cross paths one day.
Maybe we will. Hire me.
So all right, so back to Black History Month. Like, what does Black History Month mean to you?
I feel like it's a great honor and a great recognition, right? It is the shortest month of the year. I feel like Black history is all of our history, and it's something that should be more than a month long. I feel though that if that's what it takes to highlight and bring a spotlight to some game changers and some newsmakers, and teach people about the past, but also teach them about the present and those future leaders, then it's a great opportunity. I think that it's a really wonderful opportunity for us to reinforce our history and refresh our history and add to it, and also a great opportunity for others to learn a thing or two about where we come from in our history. So it's a wonderful month. I wish it wasn't the shortest, but it's a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah.
Yes.
My goal is to kind of with Black History. It shouldn't just be the month as you were saying. It should be something that's celebrated constantly because Black history is American history, and so definitely
That's it.
celebrate and keep going on and on. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there. I
Yeah.
do.
So are there any special traditions that you do to celebrate with your family for Black History Month? Or
My kids are super, super, super. Well, I say super young. They feels like I had them yesterday, but they're 4 and 6. That doesn't sound like super young. But when you're juggling it all with working full time and raising the kids, full time mom, it's a lot. They it's a lot. But I have we have started in our house this month with them going over black music, black musicians. They were learning all about Jimi Hendrix and their realm. We have been going over leaders, past leaders. I have been trying to slow roll. This is Black History Month, kids, and this is why we learn about it. So taking that lesson that I know they're learning in school, but bringing it home and relating it to our house and our family. And so it starts at home for me, having two young children. I have to, and this comes with parenthood, I'm still learning this, that you have to forge these traditions and figure them out along the way. And so I thought, okay, let me get going on this. My parents raised me with a really good sense of who I am and where I come from. And they didn't sleep on that at all. So I want to instill that in my children. In fact, in our house growing up, my parents had, I remember on the wall, um, original shackles from the slave trade. Our home was so rich in Black history, and with each piece of Black art or artifacts like that, it my parents would tell the story and make sure that we knew the importance of it and where it came from. I had the pleasure of being able to have African American history, Black history, also West Indian history, and being able to blend that all into um, one household in growing up. So my parents were very clear on who we are, who I am. And so I hope to instill that in my children with starting these traditions of every week we go over a different facet of Black life, if you will, but history, making sure that they know it.
so to kind of connect to that, my mom is actually West Indian, and so
Oh, where's mom from?
oh, she's from Jamaica.
Tell mom for me.
I will definitely. So, so I've been like growing up on Black history and like West Indian history, like in the both cultures. And so
Yeah,
one of the things that my mom and I did, because I was so fascinated by it, was we went to the African American Museum to go see all the artifacts and listen to the stories, and that was really amazing.
pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
Let me show you. So I have something that I never take off. See these silver bangles? So my 4-year-old son has one. My husband has one. My husband's from Illinois. My father has an armful. My daughter has four of them, and I have about eight. Two of these have been on since I was an infant, like newborn. I have a picture where I am a week old, brought home from the hospital, and my arm is this big. My bangles are this big. These two bangles are still on here, and they were on my arm. And I was just telling my 6-year-old daughter this morning, I said, you know why we wear these? These never come off, even if I'm doing a formal event. Sometimes I'm adjusting my microphone on the air and you can hear them jingle, and I'm like, but they just don't come off because they're not jewelry to me. They're lifeline, right? So oftentimes you'll see West Indians wearing these bangles, these silver bangles. And I was explaining to my daughter, I said, we our people come from Barbados, and your pa, my daddy, is from Barbados. That's why he wears an armful. And when you see someone with an armful of silver bangles, oftentimes they are West Indian. They've come from the islands. But no matter where you go in Barbados, you'll see these, and they just aren't. They're not jewelry to me. They're more like life. They're a lifeline. So little things like that, in trying to teach my children about the culture. And my 4-year-old, he wears a bangle, loves his bangle, but he'll get the same story so that they know that that's what's going on here. That's their history.
Culture is a part of your life. It's a way of life. So it's definitely something. It's very important, and I think it's great that you got that and that you can like wear it proudly and yeah.
And share those stories too when
Yeah.
people say, "Oh, look at your jewelry. Oh, not just jewelry." Or, "Oh, I'm working out," and they're still on, clinging and clanging, but they don't come off because the only time they come off is when I have to go through TSA at the airport security.
So, all right, earlier you were telling us about, it's hard, like it was not hard, but it's challenging, being a mom and then doing this heavy work schedule. So I want to know, how do you balance family life and work life?
You're asking me a question that I have not mastered. As I'm sitting here talking to you, I I get off the set at 11:30. By the time I get home, it's midnight. By the time I get in bed, it's 1:30. My 6-year old, before I could even get out of the shower, my 4-year old had come into my room and was laying across my bed. So I pull back the covers, put him under the covers. My husband wasn't feeling well, so he had gone into a spare room as to just in case, he were coming down with anything, not to get us sick. But so I put the 4-year-old under the bed. I go ahead, get a shower, come back. I lay down now. It's 1:30. I fall asleep at 2 o'clock. My 6-year old comes into the room. She has a sore throat. So I'm back up. At 4 o'clock, my eyes open and I now have insomnia because I'm thinking of everything that I have to get done. Oh, she's got to bring her computer tomorrow to school and my son needs this and at 4:55 I just got up to go ahead and go to the gym for a 5:30 class. And I did that knowing that my day will continue until tonight. I did try to get a quick little nap for about 40 minutes today, but I am exhausted. I am eternally exhausted, just from doing my job because I don't believe in just showing up and not being present. I'm not just showing up to be, lipstick and hairspray. I'm showing up to be present in my job and to do my job the best of my ability. And so you need to be on point, right? So I am in it until I get home at midnight again. And all I can do is hope for a better night of sleep, for maybe a few more hours of sleep. But that's part of the balance that is so hard to figure out. I'm already thinking, okay, what do I make them for breakfast in the morning? What do I pack them for lunch? I'm thinking ahead, so I'm constantly wearing my work hat and my mom hat, and I just haven't figured out how to balance the two. In my mind, no one's got it figured out. If they do, they need to holler at me, share the secret. But I just do the best that I can do every single day, and I have to accept that it's enough, right? It's really hard when you're that type of person who refuses to surrender and just show up and say, "Oh, I'm just going to do my job and, whatever." No, I love this job. I chose this job. And so I I have a lot of responsibility with it and I want to do my job to the best of my ability. If I don't know what I'm talking about each night, believe me, you sitting at home, you're going to know it. So there's a lot that goes into this and I just refuse to do it halfway. I got to do it 110% and it's really hard to figure out that balance.
Yeah, that's something I always carry with me, is that always doing everything 100%, 110%. Never want to do it halfway because you have to give your best, because it also shows, like, when I'm doing homework and it's like really tiring, but it also shows the respect that you have for your teachers because you're giving them 100% and that you're making sure that you're taking what you learned from them and then putting it through your mind onto paper, or just trying to just be respectful. That's, yeah.
That comes into play with my job because there is nothing more important to me in that moment when I'm doing my job than the viewer. I am here to serve the viewer. If you have been so kind and so gracious to allow me into your living room or your bedroom, through your TV to watch the news, the least I can do is give you 110%. And so all of that comes back to what you were saying. To me, that comes back to respect. I respect the viewer. So I refuse to just show up and be the pretty sidekick, reading the words in front of me. No, I'm gonna give 110% and then I'm gonna give some more because it's what I do. But if I didn't have that passion, then you know it, and I'd just be I may not be here for 18 years. I've been here 18 years for a reason. In this business, that speaks volumes. You see people bounce around all the time. Um, 18 years speaks volumes. So,
Yeah. So I have just a couple questions left. Just a little laid back question. After work, what does relax? See, I know you kind of answered this already, uh, but I'm still asking. What does relaxation look like for you?
Well, you know what? I had one of the most relaxing weekends this past weekend. I got a nap.
Wow.
How pathetic does that sound? But when you're running on empty all day, every day in, day out, you're just exhausted. And I'm hoping that the older my children get, not that I want to rush their childhood by any means, but that as they get bigger and a little less dependent, then maybe I can find a better balance. But right now, I'm pretty tired. And I think a lot of that has to do with the pandemic too. We've all just been trying to survive. When my children switch to remote learning, and it can happen on the drop of a dime, I'm sure, as you know, all it takes is someone to know someone who caught a case and the whole class is out for 2 weeks and you're like scrambling. Our schedules have had to change and we've had to stay just on point so much and revolving. We really can't control anything throughout this pandemic. So that's been draining in itself. And so I don't know if it's tougher to juggle everything in this current year just because of what we've all been living through. And thankfully, thank God we're still here and we're healthy. But I suspect I'd be just as tired. Just parenthood does that to you in working full time. But relaxation for me is probably just spending time with my family. You know, I don't get to put them to bed working nights. My husband gets to do that, feed them their dinner. So the hours that I have before I come into work, I was making the taco meat for taco night tonight. I'm preparing dinner. Yesterday it was cutting up, chicken salads for them for dinner. So my hours before I come into work, I think I was telling you, like they're pretty jammed up. But relaxation is those weekends when I don't have to do anything work related, where I can just kind of let my hair down and go for a hike with the kids or do something fun with them.
Just last question. What is one piece of advice you would like the students to take away from this interview? I know you gave a lot of key points, but if just like we had like one to kind of sum it up together, what would that be?
That one bit of advice would be persevere, to persevere. Um, it doesn't matter your circumstance. It doesn't matter where you come from. Doesn't matter what you look like. Doesn't matter what your parents do. Persevere for you. Push through because you can do it. And I say that coming from a standpoint. I was one of four kids growing up. There was a time in my life growing up where all four kids slept in one bed because all we had was a two-bedroom house that we rented because we never owned a home growing up. I was the first person in my immediate family to graduate college. So if you push through and you persevere and you just don't let anything get in your way, no chips on the shoulder, no stumbling blocks. Look at obstacles as an opportunity to learn and to grow and to do something greater that maybe your parents, your forefathers were able to do. If you look at life that way and through that lens, you'll get so much farther than if you sit back and let all of those things stop you or limit you or get it stuck in your head that maybe I can't do that, the doubt, the self-doubt. Just persevere, push through. And I am, and I always mean what I say, but I am easy to find. If you or any of your peers have any questions or just need that sounding board, my email is easy to find. It's on our website, nbcconnecticut.com, and you guys can always ask me any questions. If you've got any career related questions, any questions with regards to the message that I send, please do email me because I'm here to share that message because I know I've lived it and I know the importance of pushing through and persevering when it feels like maybe you can't or maybe you shouldn't be. I know the importance of it because I've lived it. So that would be the best piece of advice that I could give you and the other students.
Thank you so much, Miss Keisha Grant.
You're welcome. You're so welcome. I enjoyed this.
I enjoy this a lot. I know I've been saying this a lot, but it means so much to me.
Oh, that is so kind.